Today on Energy Contact, so often we define ourselves in negative ways by the things that we're against. And in doing so, we make a choice. We choose pain and we don't even know it. And pain is just resistance to flow. Well, today we're going to make more aware and more positive choices. So I hope you have no resistance to sticking around for the next few minutes, because I'm positive that's what's coming up right now on Energy Contact.
I'm gonna drive away all these doubts I've been keeping, and I'll keep my mind on better things. He ain't gonna worry, and I ain't gonna complain. I'm gonna drive away all these doubts I've been keeping, and I'll keep my mind on better things. Just keep my mind on better things.
Hello and welcome to Energy Contact. My name is Joseph Willenbrink. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to the production staff here in the studio for helping me get my message out to you. Energy Contact is a series I'm presenting to you as a public service. It's about attaining perfect health, growth, self-improvement, happiness, and realizing your full potential. It's designed to present you a new way of seeing yourself and a new way of seeing the world around you. We're talking about things that have to do with making an energetic contact with yourself internally and with your environment. There's no difference between the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotion, the intellect, the ego. There's no difference between mass and energy. We're brought up to believe that they're all separate, and so we spend our lives trying to split them out, parse them out, take out one little cell, look at it outside of the whole underneath the microscope. But in fact, all that health and healing and growth we're talking about today take place when we do just the opposite. When we put these things together, when we make an energetic contact between the physical world and the unseen one. We're presenting on these programs a brand new paradigm that is thousands of years old. We're presenting extraordinary topics for ordinary people. Let's move right ahead with that. Let's bring up a slide. Everyone, please know that I am not a doctor. This is not a medical advice show. This is not a medical anything show. It's not even close. I call myself maybe an energy healer or a chakra healer or things like that. So might you if you came to me. But it's important to know that state, federal, and local governments call me no such thing at all. There's a lot of important information on your screen right now. Please, we're going to leave it up there for a second, so please read it with your full attention. And when you've got that information down, if you would, please locate a pencil and paper. Here's why you might want to do that. At the end of the show, on the closing credits, there's going to be contact information for me. Now, I invite and encourage you to contact me. I sort of hope something I say will inspire you to want to do so. But in order to contact me, you're going to need that contact information. In order to get that, you're going to need a pencil and paper. There'll be plenty of time at the end of the show to jot it down if your pencil and paper are ready. So if you locate them, I'll appreciate it. All right, let's come back up here. Today's show is show number 50. Show number 50 of Energy Contact. If you're tuning in for the first time, though, today, well, thanks. Thanks and welcome. These shows are sequential. They build. There's some ramp-up time, some up-to-speed time. So we're talking about things today that we've presented and introduced and explained on earlier shows. However, I do my very best to make all of my programs have a lot of value on a standalone basis. So I think you'll get a lot out of today's show, even if it is your first time. If it is, though, and if what you see piques your interest, then I encourage you to look for previous shows, earlier episodes. They will be airing at later times, either re-airing right here, or perhaps at different days, different times, different channels in different areas. If you look for them, I'll appreciate it. All right, and now it's the time of the show where we introduce my co-host to you. Let's get Slim on camera. This is my buddy Slim back here, and Slim is here for a reason. Since we're investigating what energy contacts in the physical self, we have to know a few things, don't we? We have to know something about energy. And energy is a good thing to know about. We're learning lots about it. But all that energy out there floating through empty space somewhere does us no good. No good at all. It does us no good until we bring it into contact with something. Well, Slim is here to show us that thing that the energy contacts. Remember, a body without energy is just a corpse. And energy without a body, well, it might be a number of awesome things, but none of them are human. All right, let's move ahead. Today is an auspicious day, my friends. I glossed over it a second ago, but today is show number 50. Can you believe that? For our first 50 programs, we have been discussing, for the most part, with a little deviation, we've been looking at anatomy from an energetic perspective. We've been looking at discoveries of modern science from the viewpoint, from the perspective of ancient wisdom. But soon we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to be looking at the ancient wisdom from a modern and scientific viewpoint. So we're beginning to segue a little bit to make that transition. Until now, we've been looking basically at all the things that we can see that are built out of all of the things that we cannot see. We've been seeing something built by nothing, the visible built by the invisible. Scientists do that when they start with atoms and build out, don't they? We've experienced ourselves, in fact, over our first 50 episodes, as a sort of just a collection of forces, a collection of energy forces, internal forces that are acted upon by external forces. We've been talking about how all these forces move around to produce pain and pleasure, health and sickness. And we've seen that until we make our pain go away, we just can't really think of much else. So whatever it is that makes us feel physically good or physically bad is a function of these unseen energy flows. And anything that flows has a current, like electricity or like a river. We've seen that all these forces are invisible. They're all invisible things, but they manifest themselves in quite visible, quite tangible ways. They metabolize into the physical us, into these bodies. That's how Einstein saw us, in fact, not as blocks of ice, but as congealed steam. We're wavelengths, frequencies, pulses, rhythms, vibrations, things like that. We're like H2O, and all those invisible forces are analogous to the steam. And again, they just harden and freeze up, congeal into this ice we call a body. But it's all the same. We're just playing with words. We've also seen, over the past number of shows, that equally invisible body intellect. We've seen that all those things that we have always been told are brain things, thought, reason, recall, intellect, logic, intelligence, all those things, in fact, they permeate every cell of our body. And so we build everything that we are into that body intellect. All the promotions to flow, all the resistances to flow, we build it all in there. And then that body intellect turns right around and builds us. We've spoken a little bit over time, just alluded to, another mysterious energy, another invisible force that those old Indian mystics referred to as Kundalini energy. Now that's something we're going to learn a lot more about over the next 50 episodes of Energy Contact. You might also notice that just over these past few shows, we've been bringing back concepts that we haven't discussed since the very first episodes. We're bringing them back and integrating them in. It's all coming together. We're doing that on purpose. We're sort of converging all these points into one place. We're coming to a crescendo of sorts because we're preparing to move forward into ancient wisdom. Okay, so today we're still looking at pain and pleasure, but we're going to view them in a new context. We're going to look at them as a tool for understanding something else. We're going to see that we get the pain and the pleasure that we attract. So our show today then is about attachments, attractions, repulsions. If you feel that you have great, constantly improving health, that you've got a life full of growth and self-improvement, well, congratulations. You know why? Because it's you that's attracted it. You've built it, and you've been repelling the bad stuff. Good work. But if, on the other hand, you feel like you've got too much pain, too much sorrow, too much aggravation, too much anger, bad luck, sorrow, chaos, drama in your life, yeah, you got a little work to do. But it's all right. We're going to explain how. 1 million different people respond to pain and pleasure in 1 million different ways. And what's good for one person is bad for another. Still, there's some absolutes. Some things are good for all of us, and some things are bad for all of us. Regardless of goodness or badness, resistance to flow is what results in aches, pain, misery, suffering, agony, sickness, ugliness, all of those things, bad things like that. Attracting positive energy flows is what results in pleasure. Health, growth, happiness, self-improvement, realizing your full potential. Today, we are seeing that we get what we ask for. So, before we move on with that, everybody stop for a second. Take a big, full, deep breath. Because now we have reached the part of our show where we get to take our virtual field trip. We get to visualize, take our journey in our mind's eye, like we do about this point of every show. Now, as you know, if you've been watching the show for a while, some of our field trips are just fun and games, and others are a little bit unsettling, a little bit disturbing. Well, I must report that today is in category B. Imagine that it's the morning, and you are with a friend or a family member, somebody that you care deeply about, and they've got an addiction. In fact, you're in the bathroom with him because he's violently ill. He's hungover or strung out. Whatever he is, he's in misery, he's suffering. And so, in the course of your care for him, you just say, "Why are you doing this? Why do you put yourself through this agony?" And his reply takes you back for a second. And he says, "Oh, well, you'll never understand because you can't know how good it feels." And there you are looking at him, and he's throwing up, and he's got a fever, he's in a cold sweat, and he's shivering. He's obviously miserable, and he's giving you a lecture about feeling good. What's up with that? But at that moment, you realize that he's bringing this hours and hours of agony on himself. He calls it a pretty good trade in order just to notice a few moments of pleasure. And then you have even a more profound realization. You realize, to some extent, you're doing the exact same thing. Hold that thought. We've been seeing that not everything that hurts us is bad for us, and that not everything that feels good is good for us. And we know that some people have unhealthy attractions to things that most people would see as outside of the range. They'd see those things as painful and destruction. We've looked at the past few shows at a few particular destructive behaviors. People that hurt themselves, cutters, addicts, people who are self-abusive, people who do those self-destructive things because in some twisted way in their distorted reality, it feels somehow right to them. It seems like a good thing to do. Some people we've seen fall in love with the piercings and the tattoos they get. And they keep getting more. Not because they want more holes or more pictures on themselves, but because they've come attracted to how it feels to get one. Again, we know that what feels good to one person feels bad to another one. But that's not these people. These people are outside the lines of anything resembling healthy discomfort for anybody. Although it's interesting that they wouldn't see it that way. They wouldn't see it that way at all. All right, so it's pain versus discomfort that we're trying to define, understand the difference. One of my heroes, a lady named Ida Rolf, had some ideas on this. She is the inventor, if you will, of a modality called structural integration. It's a very deep tissue bodywork things that's more commonly known as Rolfing. Her followers named it after her. Let's bring up an Ida Rolf quote. Now, what you have on your screen right there, that is an energy contact statement. Even though Ida Rolf did not consider herself at all New Agey or metaphysical, she was a biochemist, and she sort of put aside all of that New Agey stuff. Now, we don't have time to explain Rolfing or talk a whole lot about Ida Rolf today, but this quote is important. Suffice it to say that Ida Rolf knew that gravity always wins, and that if we fight it, we lose. But if we find the way to cooperate with it, we win too. All right, let's come up here again. So, Rolfing has done a lot of people a lot of good, but it's not pleasant, it's painful. In fact, it can be excruciating. But here's the reason why I'm bringing up Ida Rolf today. One day, because her sessions were painful, one day somebody asked Dr. Rolf if it bothered her to cause that pain to people. And she replied, "Oh, I don't cause pain, I cause discomfort." So when somebody's in pain, if they're in a traffic accident or if they get hurt or break a bone or cut themselves or break a limb or something, they feel pain. They're damaging their body too. And it hurts now, and it hurts later, and it hurts as it heals. Discomfort is different. It only lasts a moment or two, and as soon as the discomfort leaves, not only do you not feel bad anymore, you feel better than it did before it started. That explains a lot of what we've been talking about. It's a new little spin of what we've been talking about for a while. We've mentioned before that when we go to the gym or go biking or running or hiking or swimming or doing yoga, whatever your exercise is, that part of the purpose we go to do it is to hurt a little bit. We want to feel bad for a moment in order to feel good for a long time. What's a good workout? Maybe it's pushing your boundaries until your muscles ache. Maybe it's disrespecting your boundaries, disrespecting your comfort boundaries. If you don't push yourself past the point of comfort, you don't grow. In fact, if you went to an exercise class and you paid your money for it and all you did was sit around and do pleasant things, at the end of it, you'd want your money back. That's not why you're there. So we're making a distinction here between positive and negative things. We want to understand the meanings of some words that people just all lump in together. We're seeing now that they have subtle but very real differences. They're not the same thing. Pain, ache, discomfort, hurt, misery, trauma, suffering, misery, agony, all these words, Ida Rolf understood. There's differences. We're beginning to understand that. We're seeing that there is a healthy place for at least some of those things, at least some of the time. But either way, healthy or unhealthy, good or bad, it all incorporates itself into our physical self. All right, let's go back to those people, those self-destructive people we were just looking at. It's easy to sit here and judge and condescend, isn't it? But the things they are doing are in concept no different than the things that you are doing every day. That's my point, in fact. We're all like that. We all do that. We all get the misery that we go for, that we attract, that we attach to. The secret to being happy is to learn how to seek better things. There's a reason we're not getting the growth that we think we want, that we think we deserve. Let's bring up another slide. Here's something else that another smart person said. You guys have heard of Carl Jung. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The latter procedure, therefore, or however, is disagreeable, and therefore it's not popular. So in real ways, the reason we don't grow is because we are repulsed by the idea of the unpleasant. We don't want to go into the darkness, do we? We're waiting for light streaming angels to fly by and make all of our troubles magically go away. If you go to church, that's the stuff you're singing about. We view the darkness as some negative place, and therefore we see it as unhealthy. We avoid it, and we might find that that's not a very good idea. Let's come back here. So we know that not all the pain that comes to us in our life is self-induced, There are things external events that visit us from the outside. There are things we can't control that hurt us. But 99% of people, 99% of the time, that's not the story at all. And our day-to-day neuroses and crises and dramas and chaoses, they are brought about by ourselves. All right, we're going to look at a couple of pieces of metal in a minute to explain external forces. Gravity, entropy, energy. We've talked about them a lot. They're forces of nature. They're the natural order of things. They're currents. They're wavelengths. And you know what? So are you and I. Let's get out my couple of pieces of metal here. I've got a couple of pieces of metal. And there's something going on between them. Maybe you can't see it, You think there's nothing there? Let's switch over here and get a little closer. Well, guess again. There must be something there. Now you can't see it, but you see the results of it. There's something there. They have a pull on each other. Unless you turn them around, and then they have a push against each other. If you'll allow me a little poetic license, when these magnets get close together, they have a longing of sorts to be together. And if we held them about here, they'd be feeling the pain of separation. Or if you turn them around and you stuck them together, they'd be feeling the stress of being stuck against something that they can't stand to be near. Maybe you've had that feeling in your life. We'll put them down for a second. We have seen that you and I are just concealed wavelengths, So we are attracting and repelling things just like those magnets are, every second of every day. When we say, hey, that fella's lucky, that's an unlucky person over there, The forces that lucky or unlucky person are conducting are not at all unlike, in a physics sense, the forces that these two magnets are doing. It's just a matter of energy fields and how they line up, what they attract and what they repel. Whether you attract and repel health or growth or self-improvement or happiness, it's all a function with how you line up with the energy current. Keep that in mind because we're coming to that a lot. The magnetism of my magnets is an energy field. It's one of the millions, and they're pulling on each other. If I move them apart, where is that magnetic field now? Do you think it went away? It does pull. Well, of course it didn't go away. It's right there. It's always there. Always. Einstein told us that matter or energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's always there. That energy field and millions of other energy fields are going through you and me right now. Radio waves, electromagnetic waves, power pole waves, cell phone signals, they're all moving through us right now. They're attracting and repelling things right now. Your health, your happiness, your spiritual growth have a flow, just like those things do. If you resist the flow, you'll be sick and in pain. You find that flow and flow with it, well, you will feel great. Promise. Okay, those old yogis we like to talk about. Those old yogis were very familiar with attractions and repulsions. They were familiar with it thousands of years ago. They referred to them as ragadveshas, a Sanskrit term that basically means attractions and repulsions. And they didn't like them. They saw them as a bad thing. Those old dudes were very wise. They saw most of our attractions and repulsions as a setup. It's only the attraction to things that make you susceptible to the repulsion. Let me give you an example. It's only the attraction to wealth that makes you feel the pain of poverty. It's only the attachment to warmth that makes you connect to the suffering of being cold. It's only the drawingness to having a full belly that makes you feel miserable when you're empty and hungry. It's only the need for companionship or romance or acceptance that make you feel the agony of loneliness, of separation, of isolation. It's a setup, and on it goes. You get the idea. It's an addiction. And to the extent that you chase those things, and I contend that you do, well, that makes you an addict then. You're trying to feel good right now, to pursue that good feeling right now without a full regard for the consequences that it might bring later. So, if you can find that spot on you, you're going to start to see the source of a lot of your pain. Everything that you are attracted to sets you up for the pain and the suffering that you might have to live with every second you're apart from those things. And we're all intrinsically set up to want things we don't have. Now, this is a very simple concept, and in ways you've heard it before, but if it's the first time it's been put to you quite this way, well, it's going to take you a day or two to metabolize that. So please think about it a little bit. All right, so when we give ourselves over to all of that attracting and repelling that's going on, we suffer. But here's news. Just like the addict, just like the cutter, we enjoy it. We look for it. We seek it out. We're out to find it. And what else is important to know is they're the same thing. The attraction, repulsion, two sides of the same coin. And whether we're attracting or repelling joy or suffering, we experience it all at the emotional, spiritual, energetic level, and then it incorporates right into our physical self, right into our body, our shape, our form, our structure, all the physical healths and sicknesses that go with it. There are a lot of things that feel very good that are in fact very bad for us. These can be as serious as heroin or crack, or as simple as an offensive mood, or maybe some offensive friends. Our addict at the top of the show, he might well tell you that his times under the influence of whatever his drug of choice is, they're the only pleasurable moments of his life. The only time that he's not in pain. He's numb to the pain, in fact. Well, what's up with that? How can he say it? Well, it's because his magnets are broken. The poles are reversed. He's attracting himself to the things that he ought to be repelling, and he's repelling himself away from the things that he ought to be attracted. And he's tricked himself into thinking that something that feels good, something feels that good, must be somehow, some way good for him. Somehow. There must be something in it that's worth pursuing. And so he continues. And so do you. You do the same thing. So, perfect health can't be defined as feeling good, can it? As an absence of pain. We've seen that at other times, whereas this feeling good we're talking about might be toxic. Well, most of the time it's good to feel good. We want to feel good. And as is the case with the good workout, like Ida Rolf told us, feeling bad can be very good for us too. What is not good for us is the inability to feel. Numbness. Numbness is not healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, however. But if you go to your medicine cabinet right now, you will see that most of the medications you have in there are designed to make you numb. We call them painkillers, pain relievers. We want relief. We want to get away from a place that ought to be a pretty nice place to be. We want to numb the pain for a while. We want to stop feeling rather than understand ourselves. Understand what we feel and why we feel it. And to the extent that you do it, you're an addict. And you might sit there and condescend and say that you're somehow better off than that addict or that cutter. So, if health and growth and happiness are inside of us, why can't we find them? We know it's all inside us at some level. Why can't we find it? Where is it inside us? Well, it's in that body intellect. That body intellect we've been talking about since the very first shows of Energy Contact. It's right there in front of us for us to take. But we're out of touch with that body intellect, which means we're out of touch with ourself, which means we're out of touch with our core. And because of that, our attractions and repulsions appear to behave randomly, even though they're not random. And things that are random means that things that are bad for us have to feel good some of the time, and things that are good for us have to feel bad for some of the time. So the secret, the trick, what we're going to look at as we go forward is understanding that body intellect, understanding how to get in touch with it. And we can do it. It's there, but it whispers. It whispers in very soft tones. So we have to find a way to it. We have to meditate. We have to contemplate. We have to sit down and shut up, turn off the chatter. That's what we're going to look at over the next few episodes of Energy Contact. For now, I wish you peace and positive energy and a healthy life in Energy Contact.
He ain't gonna worry and I ain't gonna complain. I'm gonna drive away all these doubts I've been keeping, and I'll keep my mind on better things. Just keep my mind on better things. Just keep my mind on better things.